The Galactic Council had deemed humans too violent for their ranks. Now they begged for Earth's help. Benjamin Burns, former Earth ambassador to the Galactic Council, stood at the viewport of his quarters on the orbital station circling Barza. His fists clenched as he watched the celebration below. Fireworks erupted over the alien capital, marking humanity's expulsion from the interstellar community. Burns recalled the humiliation of being forcibly removed from the council chambers. The Barzans, with their iridescent skin and multiple eyes, had jeered as he was escorted out. Their tentacles had waved in jubilation, celebrating the exclusion of the violent apes from their precious federation. That was weeks ago. Now, Earth stood isolated and vulnerable, cut off from the technological exchange and trade networks that had propelled humanity's growth. The decision left a bitter taste in Burns's mouth, but he knew the real consequences would be felt by billions back home. As Burns contemplated Earth's uncertain future, alarms blared throughout the station. He rushed to the command center, where chaos reigned. Holoscreens displayed a massive fleet of unknown origin at the galaxy's edge. Burns watched in horror as the mysterious armada obliterated several outer worlds with terrifying efficiency. The Galactic Council, in all its supposed wisdom and advanced technology, proved woefully unprepared. Their defensive maneuvers were uncoordinated and ineffective against the invaders' superior firepower. Burns couldn't help but feel a twinge of satisfaction at their incompetence. Amidst the panic, a Barzan official approached Burns. The alien's skin rippled with anxiety as it introduced itself as Neron, a mid-level bureaucrat tasked with analyzing the invasion force. Neron's multiple eyes blinked rapidly as it spoke. "Ambassador Burns, we require your assistance," Neron said, its translator struggling to convey the urgency in its voice. "Our initial analysis shows the invaders possess technology far beyond our own. Conventional tactics are useless." Burns scoffed. "Now you want our help, after kicking us out like animals?" Neron's tentacles writhed in what Burns assumed was embarrassment. "The Council has authorized me to request Earth's military expertise. We need you." As much as Burns wanted to refuse, he knew this crisis presented an opportunity. Humanity could prove its worth and potentially regain its place in galactic society. More importantly, they could protect Earth from a threat that loomed ever closer. "I'll need to assemble a team," Burns said, his mind already racing through potential candidates. "Earth's top strategists, our most experienced soldiers. We'll show you what humans can do when our backs are against the wall." As Burns prepared for departure, his comm unit chirped. An encrypted message from Earth's intelligence services flashed across the screen. The invading force had changed course. Their new trajectory put them on a direct path to Earth. The stakes had never been higher. Humanity now fought not just for its place among the stars, but for its very survival. As his shuttle prepared to depart for Barza, Burns gazed out at the vast expanse of space. The Galactic Council had deemed humans too violent. Now that violence might be the galaxy's last hope. Burns's shuttle descended through Barza's atmosphere, the planet's twin moons casting an eerie glow on the iridescent cityscape below. As they approached the landing pad, he turned to his team. "Remember, we're here to help, but don't expect a warm welcome," he said, his voice gruff with tension. General Sarah Collins, a woman with steel-gray hair and piercing blue eyes, nodded curtly. "They'll come around when they see results." Major Marcus Reeves, his Special Forces background evident in his alert posture, added, "Or when the Ravagers are knocking at their door." The shuttle touched down with a soft thud. As the doors hissed open, Burns steeled himself for the reception ahead. A group of Barzans waited on the platform, their multiple eyes blinking rapidly in the harsh light of the shuttle's engines. Neron stepped forward, its tentacles twitching nervously. "Ambassador Burns, welcome to Barza. If you and your team would follow me, please." As they walked through the city's winding streets, Burns couldn't help but notice the hostile glares from passing Barzans. Whispers of violent apes and primitive barbarians reached his ears, but he kept his face impassive. The military facility loomed ahead, a towering structure of gleaming metal and pulsing energy fields. Inside, Burns and his team were led to the heart of the complex, the Galactic Council's war room. The circular chamber buzzed with activity. Aliens of various species huddled around holographic displays, their voices a cacophony of different languages. As Burns and his team entered, a hush fell over the room. A massive hologram dominated the center, showing the current state of the galaxy. Red markers indicated the worlds already lost to the Ravagers, their number far greater than Burns had anticipated. General Collins immediately stepped forward, her eyes scanning the tactical readouts. "Your defensive strategy is flawed," she declared, pointing to a cluster of energy shields. "You're relying too heavily on passive defenses. The Ravagers will simply find a way around them." A tall insectoid alien chittered angrily. "And what would you suggest, human? More violence?" Collins met its compound eyes without flinching. "Precision strikes on their supply lines. Hit-and-run tactics to keep them off balance. We need to take the fight to them." Murmurs of disagreement rippled through the room, but Burns noticed a few thoughtful nods among the alien strategists. Niran, standing beside Burns, leaned in close. "The Council is desperate, Ambassador. They may not like it, but they'll listen." Over the next few hours, Collins laid out her plan in detail. Burns watched with pride as she deftly addressed concerns and adapted her strategy to account for alien technologies and capabilities he'd never even heard of. Finally, a Barzan military leader stepped forward. "We will attempt your strategy, human, but know that not all will follow your commands easily." Burns nodded grimly. "We understand. We'll earn their trust through action." As the meeting dispersed, Burns pulled Major Reeves aside. "Marcus, I need you to put together a strike team. Mix of species, best of the best. Train them in our tactics." Reeves's eyes lit up at the challenge. "Consider it done, sir." Days blurred into weeks as the humans worked tirelessly to prepare the galaxy's defenses. Burns found himself constantly mediating between his team and the alien military leaders, smoothing ruffled feathers, sometimes literally, and building the fragile alliances they would need to survive. Niran proved an invaluable ally, working alongside Burns to navigate the complex political landscape of the Galactic Council. The Barzan's initial wariness gave way to grudging respect as it witnessed the humans' dedication and ingenuity. One evening, as they pored over intelligence reports, Niran's tentacles suddenly went rigid. "Ambassador, we've detected a Ravager scout ship approaching Barza." Burns's mind raced with possibilities. This could be our chance to gain some real intel on the enemy. He quickly assembled a team in the war room, laying out a daring plan to capture the scout ship. Major Reeves volunteered immediately, his mixed-species strike team chomping at the bit for real action. The operation was a blur of plasma fire and close-quarters combat. Burns watched from the command center, his heart in his throat as Reeves and his team battled their way onto the Ravager vessel. When the dust settled, they had their prize, but at a cost. Several alien team members lay dead, and Reeves was carried off the captured ship on a stretcher, his torso a mass of burns and lacerations. As medical teams rushed to treat the wounded, Burns turned his attention to the intelligence they'd gained. What he discovered changed everything. "They're searching for an artifact," he announced to the assembled council. "Something ancient and powerful hidden somewhere in the galaxy." The revelation sent shockwaves through the alien leadership. Burns pressed on. "We need to find it first. It's the key to stopping this invasion." Resistance to the idea was immediate. An avian counselor squawked indignantly, "We cannot divert resources from our defense on some human treasure hunt." Burns stood his ground. "Understanding our enemy is crucial to defeating them. We continue the fight on two fronts, defend against their attacks and beat them to their ultimate goal." As arguments erupted around him, Burns caught Niran's eye. The Barzan gave a slight nod, its multiple eyes gleaming with what Burns could only interpret as hope. The race was on. With Earth directly in the path of the advancing Ravagers, Burns knew the clock was ticking. They had to prove that humanity's so-called violent nature was exactly what the galaxy needed to survive. Burns stood before the Galactic Council, his posture rigid as he introduced the newest addition to their team. This is Dr. Elena Volkov, Earth's foremost xenoarchaeologist. Her expertise in ancient galactic civilizations will be crucial to our search for the artifact. Dr. Volkov, a woman with sharp features and intense brown eyes, stepped forward. Counselors, I've studied the data from the captured Ravager ship. The artifact they seek bears striking similarities to legends found in multiple cultures across the galaxy. I believe I can help us locate it before they do. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. A Thraxian representative, its crystalline form shimmering with skepticism, spoke up. And why should we trust human interpretations of our histories? Burns tensed, but Dr. Volkov remained calm. Because, counselor, human perspective might be exactly what we need. We can see patterns where others might not, simply because we're outsiders to your cultures. As the council debated, Burns received an urgent communication from General Collins. He excused himself and stepped into a private chamber. Ben, our new tactics are working, Collins reported, her holographic form flickering with impossibly strong excitement. The stealth ships just took out 3 Ravager supply depots. We're hitting them hard and fast, just like we planned. Burns allowed himself a small smile. Excellent work, Sarah. How are the alien crews adapting to our methods? Better than expected. They're quick learners, and the successes are boosting morale across the board. We're changing minds out here, Ben. As Burns ended the call, Neron entered the chamber, its tentacles curled in what Burns had learned to recognize as excitement. Ambassador, I've discovered something in our ancient archives, records that might point to the artifact's location. Burns's eyes widened. Show me. Over the next few days, Neron and Dr. Volkov worked tirelessly, correlating Barzan records with human archaeological databases. Burns watched as they narrowed down their search to 3 star systems. We need to mount expeditions to each of these locations, Dr. Volkov insisted. Time is of the essence. Burns nodded, already formulating plans. I'll assemble the teams myself. We'll need our best and brightest for this. As preparations for the expeditions began, Burns visited the military training facility where Major Reeves was overseeing the expansion of the mixed species combat program. Despite his recent injuries, Reeves moved with purpose, his voice carrying across the training grounds. Yeah, you're hit. Mika, cover's wrath. Move, move, move. Reeves barked orders as alien recruits navigated a complex obstacle course, their movements becoming more coordinated with each run. Burns approached as the exercise ended. How's it going, Marcus? Reeves wiped sweat from his brow. Better every day, sir. Word spreading about our successes against the Ravagers. We've got volunteers from a dozen different species now. Good. We're going to need them, Burns replied, filling Reeves in on the artifact situation. Weeks passed as the expedition set out. Burns coordinated efforts from Barza, his days a blur of strategic meetings and encrypted communications. The first 2 teams returned empty-handed, their reports adding to the growing pile on Burns's desk. It was late in the Barzan night cycle when the call came in from Captain Jack Harper, leader of the 3rd expedition. Ambassador, we've found something. A ruins complex that matches the ancient descriptions. We're moving in to investigate. Burns leaned forward, his heart racing. Proceed with caution, Captain. We don't know what kind of defenses might still be active. Harper's team entered the ruins, their helmet cameras transmitting grainy footage back to Barza. Dr. Volkov watched intently, occasionally shouting instructions to the explorers. Suddenly, the feed erupted in a blinding flash of light. Alarms blared throughout the command center as energy readings spiked off the charts. What just happened? Burns demanded. Dr. Volkov's face had gone pale. They've triggered some kind of ancient security system. That energy surge, it's acting like a beacon. Realization dawned on Burns, a beacon that both we and the Ravagers can detect. Within hours, long-range scanners confirmed Burns's fears. A massive Ravager fleet had changed course, now heading directly for the planet where Harper's team was stranded. Burns called an emergency meeting with General Collins and the Galactic Council's military leaders. "This is our chance," he argued. "We can set a trap, catch the Ravagers with their guard down." Collins nodded, her holographic form already manipulating tactical displays. "If we position our fleet here, in the shadow of this gas giant, we can launch a surprise attack as they approach the planet." As the plan took shape, Burns turned to Reeves. "Major, I need you to lead a ground team. Protect Harper's expedition and secure that artifact if they find it." Reeves straightened, his recent injuries forgotten. "Consider it done, sir." The next few days were a frenzy of activity as ships and troops were moved into position. Burns took personal command of the flagship, overseeing final preparations from the bridge. As the Ravager fleet entered the system, tension mounted. Burns watched the tactical display, waiting for the perfect moment to spring their trap. Suddenly, a single blip separated from the main Ravager force, streaking towards the planet's surface. "Sir," a sensor officer called out, "that ship's energy signature is off the charts. It might be their leader." Burns's mind raced, weighing options. If they stuck to the plan, they could deal a crippling blow to the Ravager fleet. But if that ship reached the surface first... "New plan," Burns announced, his voice cutting through the nervous chatter on the bridge. "Neron, I need you to lead a team to intercept that ship. The rest of us will proceed with the ambush." Voices of protest rose from the Galactic Council representatives on board, but Burns silenced them with a raised hand. "We don't have time to debate. Neron, go now." As Neron's interceptor launched from the hangar, Burns turned his attention back to the main Ravager fleet. "All ships, prepare to engage on my mark." On the planet's surface, Reeves and his team had established a perimeter around the ruins. The sound of Ravager drop pods piercing the atmosphere filled the air. "Harper, Volkov, what's your status?" Reeves barked into his comm. "We're close," Harper's voice crackled back. "There's some kind of chamber ahead, heavily sealed. Volkov thinks the artifact might be inside." Reeves gritted his teeth as the first wave of Ravager troops came into view. "Well, work fast. We've got company." In orbit, Burns watched as the trap was sprung. Alliance ships emerged from hiding, catching the Ravager fleet in a devastating crossfire. But his attention was split, part of him tracking Neran's progress towards the surface. As the battle raged in space, on the ground, and deep within the ancient ruins, Burns realized that the fate of the galactic realm now rested on the outcome of this multi-pronged assault. He could only hope that the Galactic Council's faith in humanity's violent nature would prove to be their salvation. Salvation. The bridge of Burns's flagship erupted into a flurry of activity as the Ravager fleet entered the system. Holographic displays flickered to life, bathing the command center in an eerie blue glow. "All ships, prepare to engage on my mark," Burns ordered, his voice steady despite the tension coiling in his gut. He watched the tactical display intently, tracking the movement of the enemy vessels. Suddenly, a lone blip separated from the Ravager armada, streaking towards the planet's surface at alarming speed. "Sir, that ship's energy signature is off the charts," a sensor officer called out. "It might be their leader." Burns's mind raced, weighing his options. The original plan could deal a crippling blow to the Ravager fleet, but if that ship reached the surface first... "New plan," he announced, his voice cutting through the nervous chatter. "Neron, I need you to lead a team to intercept that ship. The rest of us will proceed with the ambush." As voices of protest rose from the Galactic Council representatives, Burns silenced them with a raised hand. "We don't have time to debate. Neron, go now." The Barzan's tentacles writhed with purpose as it rushed to comply. Burns turned his attention back to the main Ravager fleet, steeling himself for the battle to come. "All ships, engage," Burns commanded. The void of space erupted into chaos as General Collins's fleet emerged from hiding. Plasma bolts and energy beams crisscrossed the darkness, finding their marks with devastating precision. The human-designed tactics caught the Ravagers off guard, their formations faltering under the unexpected assault. On the planet's surface, Major Reeves and his mixed-species squad took up defensive positions around the ruins. The sound of Ravager drop pods piercing the atmosphere filled the air, growing louder with each passing second. "Ah, Harper, Volkov, what's your status?" Reeves barked into his comm, his eyes scanning the horizon for the first signs of the enemy. "We're close," Harper's voice crackled back. "There's some kind of chamber ahead, heavily sealed. Volkov thinks the artifact might be inside." Reeves gritted his teeth as the first wave of Ravager troops came into view, their grotesque forms silhouetted against the alien sky. "Well, work fast. We've got company." The air filled with the whine of energy weapons as Reeves's team engaged the Ravagers. The human combat techniques they'd practiced proved devastatingly effective. A Thraxian soldier crystallized an approaching enemy with a well-placed shot, while a pair of avian warriors provided air support, their natural agility allowing them to outmaneuver the Ravager flyers. Inside the ruins, Dr. Volkov's heart raced as she and Captain Harper finally breached the sealed chamber. The room was small, its walls covered in intricate glowing symbols. In the center, hovering above a pedestal, was a metallic sphere no larger than a human fist. "This is it," Volkov breathed, reaching out to examine the artifact. As her fingers brushed its surface, the sphere pulsed with an inner light, responding to her touch. "Fascinating." Meanwhile, Neron's interceptor screamed through the planet's atmosphere in pursuit of the Ravager leader's ship. The chase led them through a maze of towering canyons, each turn bringing them perilously close to the jagged rock walls. "We've got them," Neron called out as their weapons found their mark. The Ravager ship, trailing smoke and debris, careened towards the ground near the ruins. From the wreckage emerged a figure that sent chills down Neron's spine. The Ravager leader, Krovax, stood nearly 3 meters tall, his body a nightmarish fusion of flesh and machine. With inhuman speed, he began fighting his way towards the ruins. On the flagship, Burns received urgent communications from both the ground team and Neron. The space battle raged around them, but these new developments demanded his immediate attention. He had to make a crucial decision on where to allocate their limited reinforcements. After a moment's consideration, Burns made his choice. "General Collins, maintain pressure on the Ravager fleet. That's our primary objective." "Understood, Ambassador," Collins replied, her holographic form nodding sharply. Burns turned to his executive officer. "Prepare my shuttle. I'm leading a team to reinforce Major Reeves at the ruins." As Burns' shuttle descended towards the planet's surface, the battle around the ruins intensified. Reeves and his team fought valiantly, but the Ravager forces seemed endless. The perimeter was shrinking, and they were being pushed back towards the chamber containing Dr. Volkov and the artifact. Burns's team touched down amidst the chaos, immediately joining the fray. The ambassador himself moved with surprising agility, his diplomatic skills apparently not the only thing he'd honed over the years. "Glad you could join us, sir," Reeves called out, a grim smile on his face as he fired off another round. "Wouldn't miss it for the world, Major," Burns replied, ducking under a Ravager energy blast. Their momentary respite was short-lived. A deafening roar announced the arrival of Krovax, the cybernetically enhanced Ravager leader, tearing through the outer defenses like they were made of paper. "Fall back to the chamber," Burns ordered, recognizing the futility of facing such a foe in open combat. As they retreated deeper into the ruins, Dr. Volkov's voice came over the comm, filled with excitement despite the dire situation. "Burns, Reeves, you need to see this. The artifact. It's not a weapon. It's a key." Before she could elaborate, Krovax breached the final barrier. The massive Ravager filled the entrance to the chamber, his cybernetic eyes scanning the room before locking onto the glowing sphere in Volkov's hands. At last, Krovax's voice was a grating metallic sound. "The key to the Ancients' gate network. Give it to me, human, and I may spare your pitiful lives." Burns stepped forward, placing himself between Krovax and Volkov. "That's not going to happen." What followed was a brutal close-quarters battle. Burns and Reeves fought in perfect sync, their human combat skills proving a match for Krovax's cybernetic enhancements. They ducked and weaved, landing blows where they could while avoiding the Ravager's bone-crushing strikes. In the chaos, Dr. Volkov continued her examination of the artifact. As she turned it over in her hands, her eyes widened in realization. "It's not just a key," she muttered. "It's a control device for a vast network of transportation gates. This could revolutionize space travel." Suddenly, the sphere pulsed brightly. A swirling vortex of energy materialized in the center of the chamber, casting wild shadows across the walls. "Volkov, what did you do?" Burns shouted over the rising hum of energy. Before she could answer, Krovax lunged forward, his massive form barreling toward the artifact. Burns intercepted him, but the momentum carried them both towards the vortex. Dr. Volkov, still clutching the sphere, was caught in their wake. In an instant, the three figures, human, Ravager, and the artifact between them, vanished into the swirling energy. The vortex collapsed with a thunderclap, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. Major Reeves stared at the empty space where his commander had been moments before. "Burns, Doctor?" he called out, but only echoes answered him. Outside, the tide of battle had shifted. The Ravager forces, leaderless and confused, began to falter. General Collins seized the opportunity, launching a final decisive assault that shattered the enemy fleet. As the last Ravager ships retreated or were destroyed, a new reality dawned on the Galactic Council forces. They had won the battle, but at what cost? Their human leader, the one who had brought them together and led them to victory, was gone, lost to an ancient technology they barely understood. Reeves, now the highest-ranking human present, took charge of the situation. He coordinated with Niran to secure the ruins and consolidate their victory, but his mind was already racing ahead to the challenges that lay before them. Somewhere in the vast expanse of the galaxy, Ambassador Burns found himself stranded with humanity's greatest enemy and the key to unimaginable power. The battle for the artifact was over, but the war for the future of the galaxy had only just begun. The vortex collapsed with a thunderclap, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. Major Reeves stared at the empty space where Ambassador Burns, Dr. Volkov, and Krovax had vanished moments before. "Burns, Doctor," he called out, but only echoes answered him. Outside, the tide of battle shifted. The Ravager forces, suddenly leaderless and confused, began to falter. General Collins seized the opportunity, launching a final decisive assault that shattered the enemy fleet. As the last Ravager ships retreated or were destroyed, a new reality dawned on the Galactic Council forces. They had won the battle, but at what cost? Their human leader, the one who had brought them together and led them to victory, was gone, lost to an ancient technology they barely understood. Reeves, now the highest-ranking human present, took charge of the situation. He coordinated with Niran to secure the ruins and consolidate their victory, but his mind was already racing ahead to the challenges that lay before them. "Niran!" Reeves called out to the Barzan, who was overseeing the cataloging of Ravager wreckage. "We need to establish a joint task force immediately. Our priority is locating Ambassador Burns, Dr. Volkov, and Krovax." Niran's tentacles writhed in agreement. "Agreed, Major. I suggest we set up our command center on Barza. Our orbital facilities are well equipped for long-range scanning and data analysis." Within hours, a flurry of activity engulfed the Barzan homeworld. Human and alien technicians worked side by side, their fingers and appendages flying over consoles as they integrated their technologies. The air hummed with the chatter of a dozen species, all united in their quest to unravel the mystery of the ancient gate network. Reeves stood at the center of the command hub, surrounded by holographic displays showing star charts and energy readings. "Any sign of them?" he asked, his voice taut with tension. A Thraxian analyst shook her crystalline head. "Nothing yet, sir. The artifact's energy signature is unlike anything we've seen before. It's going to take time to calibrate our sensors." As the search continued, Reeves received an urgent communication from General Collins. Her holographic form materialized before him, her expression grave. "Major, we have a situation. The Galactic Council has called an emergency session to address the power vacuum left by the Ravagers' defeat. Some members are pushing to return to the old ways, limiting humanity's role in galactic affairs. Reeves frowned. That's the last thing we need right now. We should be focusing on finding Burns and Dr. Volkov, not squabbling over politics. Collins nodded. I agree. That's why I've implemented a new strategy. I'm deploying human-led mixed-species teams to assist worlds devastated by the Ravager attacks. If we can show the galaxy what humanity is capable of, it might shift the balance in our favor. As they discussed the political maneuverings light years away, Ambassador Burns found himself in a very different kind of negotiation. The swirling vortex had deposited Burns, Dr. Volkov, and Krovax on a harsh alien world. Two suns beat down mercilessly on a landscape of red sand and jagged rock formations. The air was thin and hot, making each breath a labor. Burns quickly took stock of the situation. Dr. Volkov lay nearby, dazed but unharmed. The artifact was clutched tightly in her hands. Krovax, the massive Ravager leader, was already on his feet, cybernetic eyes scanning their surroundings. With lightning speed, Burns closed the distance between them. He struck at a weak point in Krovax's armor, a vulnerability he'd noticed during their earlier fight. The Ravager staggered, caught off guard by the sudden attack. Don't move, Burns growled, his hand now gripping a piece of sharp debris like a knife, pressed against a gap in Krovax's cybernetic plating. Dr. Volkov, are you all right? The scientist nodded, climbing to her feet. I'm fine, Ambassador, but where are we? Krovax's metallic voice grated through the air. Foolish humans, you have no idea what you've done, do you? This world, it's part of the ancient network. We're beyond the reach of your pitiful alliance now. Burns pressed the makeshift weapon harder against Krovax. Explain now. The Ravager leader laughed, a sound like grinding gears. Look around you. This planet was once home to a civilization far beyond your comprehension. The Gate Network was their creation, a means to traverse the galaxy in an instant. And now, we're stranded here, in the graveyard of their empire. Dr. Volkov's eyes widened as she took in their surroundings. In the distance, half buried by sand, she could make out the ruins of massive structures. He's right, Ambassador. The markings on these ruins, they're similar to those on the artifact. This planet must have been a hub in their network. Burns processed this information quickly. All right, here's how this is going to work. We're stuck here together, so we need to cooperate to survive. Krovax, I'm going to let you up, but if you try anything, I won't hesitate to finish what we started back in that chamber. Understood? The Ravager nodded, his cybernetic eyes dimming slightly in what might have been resignation. As Burns released him, Dr. Volkov pointed to a structure in the distance. There, that building seems mostly intact. If there's any functioning technology left on this planet, that's our best bet to find it. The unlikely trio set off across the alien landscape, each lost in their own thoughts. Burns kept a watchful eye on Krovax, ready for any sign of betrayal. The Ravager leader, for his part, seemed content to conserve his energy, his massive form moving with surprising efficiency in the harsh environment. Dr. Volkov led the way, her scientific curiosity overriding her fear as she examined the ruins they passed. This is incredible, she muttered, running her hand along a wall covered in intricate symbols. The level of advancement these beings must have achieved. As they approached the intact structure, a sense of anticipation built among them. What secrets would they find inside? What ancient technologies might they uncover? But their exploration would have to wait. A piercing shriek split the air, and a shadow passed overhead. Burns looked up to see a creature unlike anything he'd encountered before. A massive, winged beast with multiple eyes and wickedly curved talons. Inside, now! He shouted, pushing Dr. Volkov toward the entrance of the structure. Krovax needed no encouragement, his cybernetic legs propelling him forward with inhuman speed. As they raced for shelter, Burns couldn't help but think of the team they'd left behind. Reeves, Collins, Neron. Would they be able to find them? And if they did, what would they discover on this ancient world? The doors of the structure slid shut behind them with a hiss, plunging them into darkness. As their eyes adjusted, soft lights began to flicker to life around them, revealing a vast chamber filled with alien technology. Dr. Volkov gasped, her eyes wide with wonder. "Ambassador, look, this must be some kind of control room. And there, that console, it looks like a gate terminal." Burns felt a glimmer of hope. Perhaps they weren't as stranded as they'd thought, but as he turned to share a look with Dr. Volkov, he caught sight of Kovacs. The Ravager leader's cybernetic eyes were fixed on the gate terminal, a look of hunger on his alien features. In that moment, Burns realized that their uneasy alliance might be even more fragile than he'd imagined. The race to unlock the secrets of this ancient world and find a way home had begun. The ancient structure hummed with newfound energy as Dr. Volkov's fingers danced across the alien console. Burns and Kovacs stood tensely on either side of her, their uneasy truce holding for the moment. "I think I've got it," Dr. Volkov muttered, her eyes fixed on the holographic display hovering above the terminal. "If my calculations are correct, this should activate the—" A blinding flash of light cut her off, forcing all three to shield their eyes. As the glare faded, they found themselves face to face with a group of armed figures emerging from a swirling vortex. "Ambassador Burns," a voice called out. "Stand down, Ravager." Captain Jackson Cooper stepped forward, his pulse rifle trained on Kovacs. Behind him, a diverse team of human and alien operatives fanned out, securing the room with practiced efficiency. Burns raised his hands, a mix of relief and caution in his voice. "Easy, Captain. We have a complicated situation here." Before Cooper could respond, a soft chime emanated from the gate terminal. The rescue team whirled, weapons at the ready, as a section of wall slid open to reveal a hidden chamber. From the shadows emerged a group of beings unlike any Burns had ever encountered. Tall and lithe, with iridescent skin and large multifaceted eyes, they moved with an otherworldly grace. At their head strode a female, her bearing regal and commanding. "I am Zara of the Krith," she announced, her voice resonating with a musical quality. "We have watched and waited, guardians of the legacy left by our ancestors. Now, at last, those who would claim this power have arrived." Dr. Volkov stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overriding her caution. "Your ancestors built this gate network? The technology is incredible. We've never seen anything like it." Zara inclined her head. "Our forebears spanned the stars, linking worlds in the blink of an eye. But with great power came great responsibility and great danger. They chose to seal away their creation, entrusting us to watch over it until those worthy to wield it emerged." Kovacs, his cybernetic eyes gleaming, spoke up. "The Ravagers have long sought this power. Our empire once rivaled that of your ancestors. We would see it restored." "And humanity?" Burns interjected. "We're newcomers to the galactic stage, but we've proven ourselves as peacekeepers and innovators. This technology could revolutionize exploration, trade, and defense for all species." Zara regarded them all with an inscrutable gaze. "Perhaps, but words are wind. If you would lay claim to the legacy of the ancients, you must prove yourselves worthy through the trials of ascension." A murmur ran through the assembled group. Captain Cooper stepped forward, his expression wary. "What exactly do these trials entail?" "Tests of wisdom, courage, and compassion," Zara replied. "Only those who embody the virtues our ancestors held dear may unlock the full potential of the gate network." Burns exchanged glances with Dr. Volkov and Cooper. The stakes were clear. This technology could turn the tide against the Ravagers and secure humanity's place in the galaxy. But the risks were equally apparent. "I'll do it," Burns declared, squaring his shoulders. To everyone's surprise, Kovacs rumbled his assent. "As will I. The Ravagers have as much claim to this power as any." Cooper frowned, clearly uneasy with the idea of a Ravager gaining access to such technology. "We need someone representing Earth's interests as well." He turned to his team. "Any volunteers?" A young woman with close-cropped hair and keen eyes stepped forward. Lieutenant Amelia Hawkins, sir, xenoanthropologist. I've studied countless alien cultures. I'm our best shot at navigating these trials. As the volunteers prepared themselves, Dr. Volkov and the remaining team members huddled around the gate terminal with the Krith. They pored over holographic schematics, unraveling the mysteries of the ancient technology. The network spans the entire galaxy, Dr. Volkov breathed, her eyes wide with wonder. Instantaneous travel between any 2 points, the implications for science, for exploration. Meanwhile, Zara led Burns, Krovax, and Lieutenant Hawkins to a hidden lift. As they descended deep beneath the planet's surface, Burns felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. The future of humanity, of the entire galaxy, might hinge on his performance in these trials. The lift doors opened, revealing a vast underground complex. Alien architecture soared overhead, its design both beautiful and inscrutable. Zara guided them to a circular chamber ringed with shimmering force fields. "The trials of ascension begin here," she intoned. "You will face challenges that test your body, mind, and spirit. Remember, it is not only victory that matters, but how you achieve it." With a gesture from Zara, the force field separating them flickered and died. Burns, Krovax, and Lieutenant Hawkins exchanged one final look before stepping forward into their first trial. As they ventured deeper into the complex, none of them noticed the shadow that detached itself from a darkened alcove. The figure tapped a device on its wrist, activating a secure communications channel. "Infiltration successful," it whispered. "Subjects have entered the trial complex, commencing sabotage operations." High above, in the chamber where it all began, Captain Cooper established a secure link with Major Reeves. "Sir, we've made contact with Burns and the others. You're not going to believe what we found here." Millions of light years away, General Collins stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching as another wave of Ravager ships emerged from hyperspace. She gritted her teeth, knowing that without the game-changing technology Burns and his team sought, they might not be able to hold out much longer. "Status report," she barked. Her tactical officer's voice was grim. "2 more Council worlds have fallen, General. We're implementing the strategic withdrawals as planned, but our forces are stretched thin." Collins nodded, her mind racing. They needed time. Time for Burns to complete these trials. Time for Dr. Volkov to unlock the secrets of the Gate Network. Time they might not have. "Patch me through to the Coalition fleet," she ordered. As the communication channel opened, she took a deep breath. "All ships, this is General Collins. I know you're tired. I know you're scared. But right now, we're all that stands between the Ravagers and total galactic domination. So we're going to dig in, we're going to hold the line, and we're going to give our people the time they need to bring home a miracle." Collins out. As her words echoed across the Coalition fleet, Collins turned her gaze back to the stars. Somewhere out there, the destiny of the universe was being decided. All she could do now was buy them time, and hope it would be enough. The ancient structure thrummed with energy as Burns, Krovax, and Lieutenant Hawkins descended into the depths of the Krith complex. The air grew thick with anticipation, each step taking them further from the familiar and deeper into the unknown. Their first trial materialized before them, a shimmering holographic maze that shifted and changed with each passing second. Burns took point, his diplomatic instincts kicking in as he analyzed the patterns. Krovax's cybernetic eyes whirred, processing data at inhuman speeds. Lieutenant Hawkins hung back, observing both her companions and the maze itself with keen interest. "The patterns," Burns muttered, "they're not random, there's a logic to it." Krovax grunted in agreement. "Yes, a test of adaptability and foresight." As they navigated the ever-changing labyrinth, Burns found himself unexpectedly relying on Krovax's enhanced senses. The Ravager's ability to predict shifts in the maze's structure proved invaluable. Lieutenant Hawkins, for her part, noticed subtle cultural symbols woven into the maze's design, providing crucial clues to its solution. Hours passed as they faced challenge after challenge. Physical obstacles tested their endurance and agility. Puzzles of increasing complexity pushed their problem-solving skills to the limit. but it was the moral dilemmas that truly strained their tenacity. In one simulation, Burns and Kovacs found themselves trapped in a crumbling space station. Holographic civilians screamed for help as systems failed around them. The only escape pod had room for one. Burns instinctively moved to help the civilians, but Kovacs grabbed his arm. "Fool, save yourself. They're not real." "Real enough," Burns shot back, wrenching free. "We can't just leave them." What followed was a frantic race against time. Burns coordinated evacuation efforts while Kovacs, to everyone's surprise, used his cybernetic enhancements to stabilize critical systems. Working in tandem, they managed to save not only themselves, but the majority of the holographic crew. As the simulation faded, Burns and Kovacs exchanged a look of grudging respect. Lieutenant Hawkins, who had been tasked with observing rather than participating in this particular trial, made careful mental notes on the unexpected cooperation between human and Ravager. Meanwhile, in the upper levels of the complex, Dr. Volkov's eyes widened as she deciphered another section of Krith data. "This is incredible," she breathed, turning to her alien counterparts. "The Gate Network, it's powered by a unique element, one that's only found on certain worlds." One of the Krith scientists nodded, their multifaceted eyes gleaming. "Yes, what you call Element X. It is the key to unlocking the network's full potential." Dr. Volkov's mind raced. That's why the Ravagers were so desperate to find these uncharted worlds. They must have known, or at least suspected. Her thoughts were interrupted by a distant rumble. Captain Cooper burst into the room, his face grim. "We've got company. Unknown hostiles have breached the outer defenses." In the trial complex below, Burns, Kovacs, and Lieutenant Hawkins had just entered a vast chamber for their next challenge when the ground shook beneath them. Sparks erupted from a nearby control panel, and the holographic environment flickered ominously. "Something's wrong," Lieutenant Hawkins said, her hand instinctively moving to her weapon. "This isn't part of the trial." Kovacs' cybernetic eyes scanned the room. "Sabotage. We are not alone." Burns nodded, his mind already formulating a plan. "We need to stick together. Whatever's happening, we stand a better chance as a team." As they cautiously made their way through the malfunctioning trial, signs of intentional damage became more apparent. Scorch marks on walls, disabled security measures, and corrupted data streams all pointed to a coordinated attack. In a shadowy alcove above, Vex watched the trio's progress through high-tech binoculars. He tapped his communicator. "Targets are adapting to the sabotage. Proceed to Phase 2. Across the complex, Vex's operatives sprang into action. They deployed disruptors to further destabilize the ancient systems and began setting up ambush points. Captain Cooper and his team moved swiftly through the upper levels, engaging in brief but intense firefights with Vex's forces. The clash of advanced weaponry echoed through the ancient halls, a jarring contrast to the complex's quiet majesty. "Dr. Volkov," Cooper called out between bursts of weapons fire. "We need those defenses online." Volkov worked feverishly alongside the Krith scientists, her fingers flying over alien interfaces. "We're trying, but the system's been corrupted. We need to reroute through secondary nodes." As the conflict intensified, Burns, Kovacs, and Lieutenant Hawkins found themselves approaching the final trial chamber. The room before them pulsed with an otherworldly energy, countless holographic displays showing glimpses of distant worlds and swirling galaxies. "This is it," Burns said, his voice hushed with awe. "The key to the Gate Network." Before they could step forward, a barrage of energy blasts forced them to take cover. Vex and his elite squad emerged from hidden positions, their weapons trained on the trio. "I'll be taking that key," Vex sneered. "The Galactic Council thanks you for your service." Kovacs snarled, his cybernetic arms reconfiguring into deadly weapons. Lieutenant Hawkins crouched low, her analytical mind already mapping out tactical options. Burns, caught in the middle, realized that the true final trial had begun, one that would test not just their individual skills, but their ability to work together in the face of a common enemy. As the standoff intensified, the fate of the Gate Network, and perhaps the entire galaxy, hung in the balance. The knowledge and power hidden within the Krith complex had the potential to reshape the cosmic order. Now, it all came down to this moment, with former enemies forced to stand together against a threat none of them had anticipated. In orbit high above, cloaked Ravager ships slipped past the planet's nascent defenses. Deep in the heart of Galactic Council space, General Collins watched as the Ravager Armada launched its assault on the Coalition shipyards, and on Barza, Niran fought to hold together a fracturing alliance. The next moves made in this underground chamber would send shockwaves across the stars, forever altering the course of galactic history. The chamber erupted into chaos as Vex and his squad burst through the entrance, energy weapons blazing. Burns instinctively dove for cover behind an ancient console, pulling Lieutenant Hawkins down with him. Krovax's cybernetic arms whirred as they reconfigured into defensive shields, deflecting a barrage of incoming fire. "We need to reach that crystal," Burns shouted over the din, gesturing towards the pulsing crystalline structure at the center of the vast amphitheater. Lieutenant Hawkins nodded, her eyes darting between the crystal and the swarm of holographic displays surrounding it. "Cover me." As if on cue, Captain Cooper and his team stormed into the chamber from another entrance, engaging Vex's operatives in a fierce crossfire. The air crackled with energy bolts and the acrid smell of ozone. Burns locked eyes with Krovax, a silent understanding passing between them. Without a word, they moved in perfect synchronization, creating a protective formation around Hawkins as she sprinted towards the crystal. Vex snarled, realizing their intent. "Stop them!" he roared, leveling his weapon at the trio. Burns and Krovax weaved through the firefight, their movements fluid and coordinated. Where Burns ducked, Krovax's shields rose to deflect incoming fire. When Krovax charged forward to clear a path, Burns provided covering fire with pinpoint accuracy. Hawkins reached the crystal, her hand outstretched. The moment her fingers made contact, the structure pulsed with blinding light. She gasped, her body going rigid as streams of data flooded her consciousness. Countless images flashed through her mind. Star maps, technological schematics, the rise and fall of civilizations. The accumulated wisdom of the Krith civilization surged through her neural pathways, threatening to overwhelm her. Hawkins gritted her teeth, her knees buckling under the strain, but she remained standing, her human adaptability allowing her to process the torrent of information. Suddenly the chamber shuddered. A low hum reverberated through the complex as Dr. Volkov's voice crackled over the comm system. "Planetary defenses online, we've got a shield up." A shimmering energy field materialized around the planet, cutting off Vex's escape route and any hope of reinforcements. The Krith, led by Zara, poured into the chamber, their advanced weaponry turning the tide against the infiltrators. Vex, realizing his plan was unraveling, raised a high-powered energy weapon, aiming directly at the crystal structure and Hawkins. "If I can't have it, no one will." Burns saw the movement in slow motion. Without hesitation, he launched himself forward, placing his body between Vex and his targets. The energy blast tore through Burns, searing flesh and bone. He cried out in agony but remained standing, shielding both Hawkins and the crystal. Krovax witnessed Burns's sacrifice, his cybernetic eyes widening in shock. In that moment, something fundamental shifted within the Ravager. He let out a primal roar and charged at Vex, closing the distance in seconds. The two collided in a blur of motion. Krovax's cybernetic enhancements gave him inhuman strength, but Vex was a trained operative with years of combat experience. They grappled fiercely, trading blows that would have incapacitated ordinary beings. Krovax found himself drawing on the human fighting techniques he had observed in Burns. He feinted left, then swept Vex's legs out from under him. As Vex stumbled, Krovax delivered a devastating series of strikes, ending with a cybernetically enhanced uppercut that sent the operative crashing to the ground unconscious. With Vex neutralized and his team in retreat or custody, an eerie calm settled over the chamber. Hawkins stood motionless, her eyes glowing with an otherworldly light as she absorbed the last of the Krith knowledge. She turned to face the others, her voice resonating with newfound power and understanding. "I know how to end this war," she declared. "I can bring peace to the galaxy." Using the Krith technology surrounding her, Hawkins established a direct link to both the Coalition fleet and the Ravager Armada. Her consciousness expanded, connecting with millions of minds across vast distances. People of Earth, of the Ravager Empire, of all worlds caught in this conflict. Her voice echoed across the stars. "I bring you a truth long hidden, a secret that will reshape our understanding of the cosmos." She revealed the true history of both races, their common ancestry, their shared heritage as children of the Krith. Holographic displays materialized throughout the chamber and in every ship receiving the transmission, showing irrefutable evidence of their linked past. "We are not enemies," Hawkins continued. "We are long-lost family, seated across the stars by our common ancestors. The Krith left us this legacy, this network of gates, not as a weapon to be fought over, but as a gift to reunite us." In the Coalition flagship, General Collins stared at the holographic evidence in disbelief. Across the void of space, Ravager commanders did the same. Both sides issued immediate ceasefire orders as the implications of this revelation sank in. Back in the chamber, Burns collapsed, the adrenaline fading and the full extent of his injuries becoming apparent. Krovax rushed to his side, surprising everyone, including himself, with his concern. The Ravager's cybernetic arms reconfigured, producing advanced medical tools. "Stay with me, human," Krovax growled, working to stabilize Burns's condition. Dr. Volkov arrived moments later with a team of Krith healers. They surrounded Burns, their hands glowing with bioluminescent energy as they began their advanced healing techniques. As Burns fought for his life, Hawkins activated the full power of the Gate Network. Across the galaxy, ancient structures hummed to life, offering access to countless uninhabited worlds rich with resources and opportunities. "This is our shared inheritance," Hawkins announced, "a network that can end scarcity, fuel exploration, and usher in an era of unparalleled cooperation. The choice is ours, to cling to old hatreds or to embrace a future together." The chamber fell silent as her words echoed across the cosmos. In that moment of stillness, the fate of galaxies hung in the balance. The next moves made here would ripple across the stars, forever altering the course of cosmic history. As Burns' eyes fluttered open, his vision clearing to see humans, Ravagers, and Krith working side by side to save him, a spark of hope ignited in his chest. Perhaps, just perhaps, they had found a way to forge a new path forward, together.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.